Welcome back to the Thrifty Food Plan channel, friends. I am so glad you are here. If you like what you see, please hit that like button and subscribe. If you watch my grocery haul videos, you may have noticed that I always remove the tax from the final tally. And on the one hand, that's because we can't eat tax, and the USDA's Thrifty Food Plan, which I use to budget, is about food costs. Can't eat the tax. But there's a bigger ideological reason why I always remove the tax from my food total. So let's get to it. Hi, friends, it's Jay, and I am back in London, renting a different room this week. And the grocery haul will come out on Thursday, but the trip to the grocery store here reminded me about a passion issue that I've had for a very long time, and it's about the taxation of food. If you watched my Why I Eat This Way video that I published a long time ago, I shared in that video that I've been really blessed my whole life to work in kind of the nonprofit and government sectors, sort of being able to do mission-oriented work for a living. And one of the nonprofits that I worked for specialized in what we used to call poverty law. And it was working at that organization that I really came to understand the impacts of some of the tax schema that we use in the US and their impacts on people who are experiencing poverty or financial insecurity of any sort. And, one of the things is, like in the States, we can have income tax, property tax. We also can have sales tax. And sales tax generally is what, let me say first, I am hesitant to make this video because it is implicitly political. And I feel strongly about it, so I'm just going to put it out there. Different kinds of taxes: income tax, property tax, and probably the most regressive tax is a sales tax. And why I say that, why I say it is regressive, why I believe it is unfair, is because lower income residents of the United States pay 8 times more in sales tax as a share of their income than their more affluent peers. And I have always felt like this was fundamentally unfair and unequitable and unequal. Food tax is a subset of that, and that is going to be the focus of our video today. So the states that tax food are Arkansas, Illinois, Missouri, Virginia, Utah, Alabama, Hawaii, Tennessee, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Idaho, Kansas, and Mississippi. And as you can see, the degrees of sales tax kind of vary pretty broadly in terms of what applies to the food that you purchase. The states with a little asterisk by them provide a partial tax credit, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, there are other states where maybe the state itself doesn't apply tax, but they allow local municipalities to apply tax. And those states are, that could be city or county: Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Louisiana, and North and South Carolina, the Carolinas. So even if you live in one of these states and your state legislature says, you know what, we're not going to charge a statewide food tax, your city or county governments may be doing that. So for me, there are at least 3 reasons why taxing food is particularly inequitable. And the very first reason is that taxing food does have a disproportionate impact on people who are experiencing financial insecurity, and it actually expands our degree of financial insecurity. And one reason for that is that folks who are lower income or experiencing financial insecurity, they tend to spend twice as much of their income on at-home food costs than their more affluent peers, right? So our lower income households spend more of their income at the grocery store than more affluent people do. More affluent people, so an example is for lower income Americans, their top three expenses are housing, transportation, and then food. For more affluent people who live in the United States, their highest uses of their income are housing, transportation, pensions and 401ks, social security, and then food, right? So when we tax food, we know that it's going to have a disproportionate impact on the lowest income folks among us. We just know that to be true. The second reason why I believe that taxing food is fundamentally inequitable is because it disproportionately impacts people of color. And that is because people of color are more likely to be financially insecure, and that is for lots of reasons that are institutional functions of our history, all of those sorts of things, right? For example, people of color typically have not had the ability to generate generational wealth that gets passed down through the generations because of historical discrimination. I mean, you know, don't forget that it was like in my father's lifetime, you know, when people of color were not allowed to go to, you know, prestigious colleges and universities or historically white colleges and universities. So there were lots and lots and lots of barriers for black and brown families to be able to generate wealth across the generations. Of course, slavery, Jim Crow laws, all the things, right? And then, you know, I think the third reason why I believe that taxing food is fundamentally wrong is that it can and does increase food insecurity. People will buy less food. And it may not sound like we're talking about a lot of money when you're talking about a state sort of taxing food 4 or 5%, or a municipality doing that. But you know, over the course of a year, that certainly adds up. So, for example, if your family spends $200 a month on groceries and you're taxed at 5% on that, it's $120 a year. That's real, that's like a whole grocery shop, you know? So the impact of taxing food is that it does expand the impacts of food insecurity. I mentioned previously that there are 4 states that provide a tax credit for food tax. So these are the 4 states that do that: Hawaii, Kansas, Idaho, and Oklahoma. And let me just say, don't get your hopes way, way up here, because it's not a ton of money, but every dollar counts on this channel. In Oklahoma, for example, the maximum credit for food tax on your taxes, if you file taxes, is $40. I think in Kansas it's like $125, depending on whether you qualify. And that's part of the reason why the tax credit stuff, it just doesn't help as much as I'd like for it to, because of really a couple of reasons. First, it assumes that you file taxes, and some people who don't make enough money don't need to file taxes at all at the state level, sometimes at the federal level too. Also, the dollar amounts that these states often reimburse as a credit is actually below what you're likely to have spent on food tax. And then the final thing is, you know, for folks who are living paycheck to paycheck at best and really struggling to get by, Like getting a little $40 back in the state of Oklahoma is a nice windfall at tax season. But in some ways, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it might be better to have that money in each of your paychecks, if you know what I mean. So it's better for states to give a tax credit than nothing at all. It's just not ideal, and often it's not going to cover the full cost, and many people aren't even going to bother to fill out the paperwork to get it. Let's be honest. So, what can we do about all of this? First things first, if you do receive federal SNAP benefits, check your receipts at the grocery store, because anything you buy with your federal food subsidy should be tax free, and you should not be charged on that food. That said, any other food in your cart will get taxed, but do check your receipts at the grocery store to make sure you're not being taxed on food that you might be buying with SNAP EBT benefits. You know, if you live in a state that provides the tax credit, and I put some resources that you can look at down below in the description box, see if you qualify for the credit on your state taxes and claim it if you do. Some research indicates that very few people who qualify for these tax credits actually claim them on taxes. Special shout out here to Oklahoma. If you live in Oklahoma, now would be a great time to get involved. Your governor is working with the legislature to potentially repeal the state level sales tax on food. So, great time to get involved. And I put in the description box below kind of a link to a policy organization that might be able to direct you in terms of getting involved on this issue locally. And then finally, all of us, if we live in one of the states that tax food, we can email our state and local electeds and ask for a policy change. I've included directories in the description box below of state legislature and local city, county, council where you can find sort of your folks. I've also put in the description box some resources that you could pass along to your state legislators or your local electeds, sort of to make your fact-based case. So just want to thank everyone who has watched this video and listened to my rant about a little bit of a passion project of mine that really I've been aware of for more than 20 years. Food tax just makes me mad, and I feel like it is fundamentally unequitable, and I really, really wish we could get rid of it so that people aren't taxed on food, a basic necessity. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Please do come back on Thursday when I will have a grocery haul and meal plan video from London. See you then.